The following is a presentation of the Fairfax Network.
Extra, read all about it. Robin Hood in court today. Extra.
Looks like Robin picked the wrong target this time.
Yeah, the sheriff's mad as a hornet and wants a conviction.
Friar Tuck is going to testify for the sheriff, not Robin. Isn't that strange?
And I heard that Maid Marian saw something that will blow this case wide open.
I wonder what the jury will decide.
Robin Hood a criminal? He steals from the rich and gives to the poor. What's wrong with that? Well, as a juror in this case, it's your job to decide whether Robin Hood is guilty or not guilty. Robin has been accused by the Town of Nottingham of stealing from the sheriff. He's called the defendant. Sitting next to him is the attorney that will argue his case. She's called the defense attorney. On the other side of the aisle is the Sheriff of Nottingham. He's accused Robin of stealing his family's treasure. Next to him is the attorney that will try to prove that Robin Hood is guilty. She's called the prosecuting attorney. Your job as jurors will be to listen carefully to each side of the case and reach a decision of guilty or innocent based on the facts presented in this court. And me? I'm the bailiff. And the first thing I need to do is to get this trial started. All rise. The Circuit Court of the Town of Nottingham is now in session with the Honorable Judge Judy Shaw presiding. The case of the Town of Nottingham versus Robin Hood will now be heard.
Please be seated. The charges against Robin Hood are the taking of property belonging to the Sheriff of Nottingham. The sheriff has also accused Robin Hood of assault. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we will now hear opening statements. Does the prosecution have an opening statement?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a very serious crime. The Sheriff of Nottingham, the esteemed head of our trusted police force, was attacked while investigating our new town territory. During the attack, his family treasure was stolen. Our case will prove that Robin Hood committed this crime. The sheriff will clearly identify Robin Hood as the guilty party in two ways. First, by the nature of the attack, which is a typical example of the way the defendant is always lurking around the forest at night. And second, by his careless use of monogrammed arrows, which we will introduce as evidence against him. Furthermore, the sheriff's treasure wound up in the church in the forest, which is run by one of Robin Hood's buddies, Friar Tuck. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the sheriff is the most trusted official we have. Even if you believe that Robin Hood helps many poor people, that doesn't change the fact that he is guilty of assaulting my client and stealing his family treasure. Robin Hood should be punished by being locked up forever.
I will not tolerate these outbursts in my court. Please keep your client quiet during these proceedings.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, does the defense have an opening statement?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is not guilty of this crime. He did not assault the Sheriff of Nottingham, nor did he steal any Nottingham family treasure. Our case will show that the sheriff can't even identify Robin Hood as being in the forest that night. We will also show that the so-called family treasure doesn't belong to the sheriff at all. Robin Hood is a fine, upstanding citizen of this town. He found a treasure chest full of jewels in the forest, and he generously gave to the poor. Now, this town has a law, finders keepers, and Robin Hood could have sold that treasure for a handsome profit. But instead, this noble man chose to give to those less fortunate. My client is not a criminal. He is a hero.
Huh? Are both attorneys talking about the same event? each side seems to have such a different story. Well, those were just the opening statements, where both sides get to introduce their side of the case. You don't have to prove anything in an opening statement. Proving the case starts now. The town attorney will call witnesses and present evidence that Robin Hood is guilty. Later, the defense attorney will call witnesses to prove that Robin Hood is innocent. Listen carefully to each witness and the evidence that's being presented. In the end, this will help you determine which side you believe.
Town attorney, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call the Sheriff of Nottingham as my first witness.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Please be seated.
Please state your full name and position with the town.
I am the Sheriff of Nottingham, charged with maintaining order and peace throughout this town. I have held this position for 2 years.
Can you tell us about the events of the night of September 14th of last year?
Why, certainly I can. 'Tis my job, after all, to remember details. I was riding through the Sherwood Forest to visit the land we reclaimed from the Sherwood Lakes. Approximately 2 miles into the forest, I was suddenly attacked by an army of men, swinging from trees and coming from all directions. There must have been thousands of them.
What happened next?
Oh, they made fun of me. They called me names and stole all of my gold and jewels. They shot arrows at me and one even pinned me to a tree.
Is this the treasure chest full of jewels that was taken from you?
Yes, it's the Nottingham family treasure, which I take with me wherever I go.
Your Honor, I'd like to submit into evidence this chest of jewels as Town's Exhibit A.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
The chest of jewels will be entered into evidence as Town's Exhibit A.
Can you identify the hoodlums that robbed you?
One of them was that scoundrel, Robin Hood. I'm sure of it.
Is this the arrow that was used to pin you to the tree?
Yes, that's the arrow. See the RH marked on it? It must be Robin Hood's arrow. I've had the voter registration records checked completely. There are no other RHs in this area.
Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence this monogrammed arrow as Town's Exhibit B.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
The arrow will be entered into evidence as Town's Exhibit B.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness.
The town's attorney has just finished questioning her witness. That's called direct examination. But the witness isn't done yet. Now the defense gets their chance to ask questions. This is called cross-examination. Cross-examinations are usually not as friendly as direct examinations. Let's see what questions the defense has for the sheriff.
Defense, do you care to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. Sheriff, what time of day was this?
It was around midnight.
You said you were on an inspection tour of the forest. What kind of view do you get around midnight?
Well, I was very concerned about visiting the entire forest, so I had been wandering around since about 8.
I see. Wandering around in a dark forest for 4 hours. That makes perfect sense to me. Now, tell me about this army of men that attacked you. Thousands, was it? How many was that exactly?
Well, I didn't get a good count, but maybe 100, maybe 50, and maybe 10.
And what were they wearing?
It was kind of hard to see. They blended in with the trees and all. Green and brown, I suppose.
If it was pitch dark and they blended into the trees and forests, how do you know my client was among them?
Because whenever things go wrong in this town, Robin Hood is always at the bottom of it.
So you didn't actually see my client, you just assumed he was there?
I didn't need to see him. He shot his bow and arrow at me so that my beautiful cloak was pinned to a tree. Everyone knows that only Robin Hood can do that. He is the town's best archer.
So, you can't say you actually saw my client. Just some arrows and some green and brown men and an arrow marked RH.
Well, the initials on the arrow. That proves he did it. And his laugh. I'd know his cackle anywhere, the lowlife.
Your Honor, please instruct the sheriff to be more respectful of my client.
Sheriff, it is the policy of this court to demand respect for all parties during a trial. Please refrain from such comments, and the jury will disregard such comments.
Now, Sheriff, where did you get the treasure you were carrying?
Objection, Your Honor. That is not relevant.
Counselor, how is this relevant to the charges at hand?
Your Honor, my client is charged with stealing the property of the sheriff. I'm simply trying to determine if this is the property of the sheriff.
Silence. The objection is overruled. The testimony is relevant. The town attorney should remember that she brought it up on direct examination.
So this is your treasure? What kind of treasure is it? Can you describe some of it?
It's the Nottingham family treasure. It has, jewels and things.
Such as?
Well, I can't remember. We're a very old family and good friends of the king, you know. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at the jewels.
So you can't identify your own family treasure. Now, how heavy was this box?
Objection, Your Honor. This is ridiculous. What does that matter? I object to the relevancy of the last question.
Your Honor, I simply want to know what was he doing wandering around the forest with a huge chest full of treasure in the middle of the night?
Objection sustained. Enough about the treasure, Counselor. Get on with it.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
What's the deal with all these objections? Well, attorneys object when they feel that the rules have been broken. What are the rules? Officially, they're called the rules of evidence. The rules control what is proof and what is not proof as defined by the court. The judge has the final say on the rules. When she sustains an objection, she agrees that the rules have been broken. When she overrules an objection, she disagrees. Got it? Good.
Does the town have any other witnesses?
We call Friar Tuck of the church in the woods.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
So help me God, I do.
Please be seated.
Please state your full name and profession.
I'm Friar Tuck, priest of the church in the woods.
And where is that located?
In Sherwood Forest.
Do you know Robin Hood?
Why, yes. He's a wonderful man. He gives generously to the church's missions.
Did he bring you some jewels on September 17th of last year, 3 days after he robbed the sheriff?
Objection, Your Honor. The town attorney has not proven that Robin Hood committed any crime.
Objection sustained. The jury should disregard the town attorney's last statement that Robin Hood robbed the Sheriff of Nottingham. The defendant is innocent until proven guilty. Counsel, please watch your line of questioning.
Yes, Your Honor. Friar Tuck, did Robin Hood bring you the treasure that was presented earlier in this courtroom?
Why, yes, and I recognized it.
You did?
Why, yes, it belonged to the town church. I'd recognize the blue and green jewels and gold-plated dishes anywhere. Robin helped raise the money for those, you know. Such a good man he is. Why, you should have seen him help those poor, starving townspeople last year at Christmas.
Objection, Your Honor.
You can't object to your own question, Counselor. Friar Tuck, please continue.
As a matter of fact, the town church's priest, Bishop Brown, told me that the sheriff had taken these items for safekeeping from all the robbers in town. The bishop seemed quite upset about the sheriff's form of safekeeping, but here the treasure is, safe and sound. It's so good that the church has all its treasure back.
Objection, Your Honor. That is hearsay, and I didn't even ask a question.
Objection sustained. Friar Tuck, you can only testify as to what you know, not what others may have told you. The jury will disregard Friar Tuck's last statements.
Sorry, Your Honor.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. Friar Tuck, what is this church treasure? The jewels the sheriff thinks belong to him? What is it used for?
The church uses it to support the poor and destitute, of which there are many now. The church buys food, clothing, and helps keep the homes in repair, so these poor people can continue to farm the rich people's lands.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
The town has no further witnesses, Your Honor, and the prosecution's case is complete.
Does the defense wish to present its case?
Yes, Your Honor. As our first witness, we call Maid Marian.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
You may be seated.
Maid Marian, do you know the defendant Robin Hood?
Yes, I do. He is a very good friend of mine.
And can you tell us what you witnessed on September 14th of last year around noon?
I was in the town church, off in a small chapel near the back, when I heard the sheriff come in. He was looking for the church father, Bishop Brown. He and the sheriff got in a terrible argument. The sheriff started grabbing all the jewels and gold plates and things from the church. The bishop was crying and he tried to take the treasure back, but the sheriff just kept right on grabbing things. It was a terrible scene.
Are you certain it was the sheriff?
I'd recognize that evil man anywhere.
Objection. That is a horrible thing to call my client, and it should be stricken from the record.
I agree, Counselor. Objection sustained.
She was overwrought, Your Honor. It won't happen again. Now, Maid Marian, can you identify this treasure box full of items that the sheriff says belong to his family? Are these the items taken from the town church?
Yes, these are the items. I lit that gold candlestick myself just the week before, and that's the big box he put everything in.
Thank you, Maid Marian. No further questions, Your Honor.
Does the town attorney wish to cross-examine?
Ms. Marian, you are a good friend of Robin Hood's, wouldn't you say?
We are friends, yes.
How close?
Robin is a wonderful close friend. Who wouldn't like him? He's always helping people, rescuing people, lending everyone a hand.
Were you not seen carousing with Robin Hood at a party with several of his merry men at the town church last Christmas?
Well, yes, I was there celebrating.
Are you not, in fact, Robin Hood's girlfriend?
Objection, Your Honor. How could this be relevant to the truth of what Maid Marian has stated?
These questions are to show a prejudice she may have, Your Honor, a reason for her to misstate the truth.
Objection overruled. I believe these questions are relevant to the truthfulness of the witness. Counsel, you may continue.
Ms. Marian, when close friends and, boyfriends are in trouble, you like to help them, don't you?
Yes. It's very important to be there for all your friends, whether or not they're boyfriends. In these difficult times, I must be there for all my friends, including Robin.
You might even want to stretch the truth or change a story, now wouldn't you?
No, that's ridiculous.
Your boyfriend might go to jail, might hang, really, and you are telling me that you wouldn't help him?
Well, of course I would help him. I don't want him to die, but I wouldn't lie.
Oh, really? I have no further questions, Your Honor, for this girlfriend of Robin Hood's.
Maid Marian, you are dismissed. Counselor, call your next witness.
Your Honor, I call Robin Locksley.
There is no Robin Locksley on the witness list.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Mr. Locksley is also known as Robin Hood.
Very well. Mr. Locksley, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
You may be seated.
Mr. Locksley, there seems to be some confusion as to your name. Who are you?
I am Robin of Locksley. Well, my father was the Earl of Locksley. Some people call me Robin Hood. A nickname, you might say.
Mr. Locksley, are you an archer?
Well, yes. I'm generally believed to be the best archer in 3 counties.
And do you mark your arrows?
Yes, I do.
Do you mark them with your initials?
RL, yes, that's correct.
Not RH?
Why, no. Those are not my initials. My given name is Robin of Locksley.
Now, Mr. Locksley, did you assault the Sheriff of Nottingham on September 14th of last year?
As a matter of fact, I did not. Wish I had, but I didn't do what he thinks I did.
Mr. Locksley, did you steal from the sheriff the precious Nottingham family treasure?
Certainly not. Well, there is no Nottingham family treasure. There's only the church's treasure, as my good friends Friar Tuck and Maid Marian have told you.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Town Attorney, would you like to cross-examine?
Why, yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hood, Mr. Locksley, were you in Sherwood Forest on the night of September 14th of last year?
Yes, I was.
And what were you doing there?
Target practice. My friends and I like to practice on the rich, targets we find hiding in the woods. Well, it seems there's been a lot of redistribution of the town's wealth, and the poor people, who are growing in number, are starving to death. Or whatever rich trophies we hunt down in the forest are turned over to the poor. All kinds of things show up hiding in the woods at night.
You hunt and do target practice in the dark?
I'm very, very good.
Who else was there with you? Don't you hang out with Little John and Friar Tuck and those merry men who are known to be lawbreakers?
Objection, Your Honor. There is no evidence before this court as to the criminal record of the merry men.
Your Honor, I withdraw the term lawbreakers from my question.
Very well. Members of the jury, please disregard the term lawbreakers from the previous question. Mr. Locksley, you may now answer the question.
Those men are my friends, yes. I don't remember if they were with me or not, though. It was a year ago.
I see. And did you meet up with the Sheriff of Nottingham on that night?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I run into all sorts of people in the woods at night. Due to the darkness, well, it's not always possible to tell who they are. I did see a man, I think, and he dropped a lot of things off his horse.
Didn't you attack him and make him drop his treasure?
No, I didn't attack him, whoever he was. Oh, and by the way, if I had shot an arrow at him, it would have gone to much more interesting places than his robe.
What did you do next?
Well, I waited until he was done dropping things. Then I collected them and gave them to Friar Tuck. Well, he helps the poor, you know. Finders keepers, as they say.
Oh, really? No further questions. Oh, wait a minute. I have one more question for you. Did you shoot an arrow at anyone that night?
Well, I really don't know how to answer that one.
Your Honor, may I have a moment with my client?
Very well, one moment.
Mr. Locksley, let me ask you one more time. Did you shoot at anyone that night?
I refuse to answer that question on the grounds it might incriminate me.
Refuse to answer? Incriminate me? What does that mean? Well, it's a part of the U.S. Constitution, specifically the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. This amendment guarantees that you don't have to answer a question which might lead others to believe you are guilty of a crime. The judge will tell you more about how the jury handles this.
Jurors, the witness has chosen not to answer the question because he might incriminate himself. You, as the jury, should not regard this as an admission of guilt. Treat it as if the question was never answered at all.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any more witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor. The defense has finished presenting its case and rests.
I will now hear closing arguments. Town Attorney, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it should be quite obvious to you that Robin Hood, or Robin Locksley, assaulted my client and stole the Nottingham family treasure. By Robin's own testimony, he was in the forest shooting arrows and saw a man dropping his treasure. This is a ridiculous story. How stupid does he think you jurors are? Isn't it obvious that he and his merry band of men committed this terrible act against my client? It doesn't matter if poor people may be helped by this treasure. It isn't their treasure. It's the sheriff's treasure. You may find Robin Hood charming, but a thief with good intentions is still a thief and deserves to be punished. Find him guilty. Thank you.
Counsel for the defense, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, there is absolutely no proof that my client either assaulted the Sheriff of Nottingham or stole any Nottingham family treasure. The town's case is full of holes. First, the sheriff can't even remember how many men attacked him in the woods that night. Was it 1,000? Was it a few? It was dark and he couldn't see. And maybe the infamous Robin Hood wasn't even there at all. Second, even if you believe my client shot an arrow somewhere in the woods that night, the only arrow the sheriff can identify has the markings RH, and those are not Robin Locksley's initials. And what about that Nottingham family treasure? Why, the sheriff himself can't even identify it. But Friar Tuck and Maid Marian can identify it as the town church's treasure, stolen by the sheriff, where he took it deep into the forest where he thought no one would find it. I ask you, how can anyone steal from a thief? Ladies and gentlemen, there is more than reasonable doubt here and little or no evidence of any wrongdoing. Find my client innocent and return him to his good deeds. Thank you.
Now you know why they call them closing arguments. They both sounded so certain. How can you, the jury, make a decision? Well, the judge has some specific instructions to help you reach a verdict.
You have heard the evidence from the town attorney and the defense attorney. It is your responsibility as the jury to weigh the evidence of both sides. In order to convict Robin Locksley of assault and theft of the sheriff's possessions, you must agree unanimously. That means that all of you must agree, not just some of you, that Mr. Locksley is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt means that you must be practically certain that the evidence and facts presented prove that Mr. Locksley is guilty. If you have any doubts at all, you cannot convict Mr. Locksley. Please go and deliberate to the best of your ability.
Okay, now it's your turn. Did the prosecution prove that Robin assaulted the sheriff and stole the Nottingham family treasure? Which witnesses were telling the truth? Do Robin's good deeds count for anything? Do you have any reasonable doubts? It's up to you.